The next two bills we're going to hear are by Representative Quattrochi, House Bill 5314 and 5315. Is Representative Quattrochi going to be coming? Oh, he is on the screen? Representative Quattrochi, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, yes.
Great, Chairman.
Please-
Thank you. Thank you.
please
Thank you for
proceed.
having us.
Fine.
And thank you, committee members. So I'm very happy to reintroduce these bills on behalf of my constituent, Mr. Joe McGeough, who has become somewhat of an expert through his own challenges with his children and their learning disabilities with dyslexia. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to let him, as the expert, testify. He joins me today, and I'm happy to have him with me.
Okay, welcome, Mr. McGeough. He is going to be on both bills, Representative Quattrochi. Could he address both bills?
Absolutely.
One shot. We hope he's not billing us by the hour, but, you know, I know that attorneys like to be concise. Welcome, Mr. McGeough. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for having me, and to the committee, thank you for having me. I'll try to be as brief as possible. There's really no reason to go through these bills. You all will have the ability to read them. I'm sure you've reviewed them. But let me state that when I am driving up to Boston to argue a case in the appeals court, my briefs have been put in. But I'm trying to think of a way to open the argument contextually to give it some context. And today, I went down into the basement when my 13-year-old, who I'm sure you remember, Chairman McNamara, testified. And I said, do you want to come up to Bobby's house and testify on this bill? And I received a resounding no. And I said, why, Kiara? And the response really puts into context how a lot of these children feel. She said, they're never going to pass the bill. They never passed the other bill I testified to. They don't care about dyslexic children. And that struck at the heart, that a 13-year-old who at a time was proactive in politics has become disenfranchised. The bills before you, let me address real quick the shorter bill. 5315, I testified to this last year, and I would encourage members of the committee who were not present on the committee at that time to look it up on the court TV. This should already be in place, as I said, Chairman McNamara. We commonly refer to it as the Mancini bill, which you're familiar with, I'm sure. But last year I testified, and in fact, yesterday I had a conversation with the director of the ARC with reference to this bill, and she said, Joe, this is still going on. I just received a call from a parent who was told that because they're homeschooling, their child is not entitled to IEP services. So what this bill does is just makes black letter law for the average person who is not versed in legality to point to and say, my child is entitled to IEP services if in fact I decide to homeschool. Now, 5314 is a little more lengthy, Chairman, and I would start off with the caveat that I don't just think these bills up. I do the research, and a lot of these bills are just carbon copies of bills that have been passed in other states and have been supported by the decoding dyslexias of other states. And in fact, this bill kind of mirrors a Florida bill that is there. 2 legislative sessions ago, and I would encourage members of the committee who were not on to go to YouTube and just type in dyslexia hearing Rhode Island, and the testimony will come up. 2 years ago, we had experts from Boston come down And they testify to the science of the brain and the science of reading. Nadine Gabb, Mr. Gabrielli from MIT, and they testify to the critical ages with reference to the brain development and identifying the issues of dyslexia, or in and of itself, just the issues where a child is having trouble learning to read. Because from K to 4th grade is when the gray brain matter is the most liquid. And that is the area of opportunity where you have the greatest gains of being able to create new pathways through educational instruction. So what 5314 does is it asks the state for the first year or two to mandate testing for all children from K to 4th grade with reference to a specific test which has scientifically been proven to identify issues related to dyslexia or reading. After that, I would suggest that the state could then reduce the testing to children entering kindergarten or children who are transferring into the state from out of state that may not have been tested. I recognize it puts an onus on the school districts and RIDE with reference to reporting, holding meetings, notifying parents that their child may have tested for indications of a reading disability. But those are all critical components that need to be there. We need to educate the parents and advise them what to do, i.e. possibly get a neuropsychological exam of your child. We need to institute the corrective actions through a multisensory phonics-based approach for these right hemisphere brain children who cannot learn to read in the traditional way, because it's scientifically proven that the left hemisphere of their brain isn't wired the way we would say a contemporary brain is wired. They need that multisensory approach. And it also mandates follow-up so that there is some accountability for these children. Now, I wholly suspect that there's going to be pushback with reference to cost in the General Assembly, where we're going to come up with this money. But as I've stated 2 years ago, and it's pretty well documented, 50% of the individuals that are incarcerated are dyslexic. 77% of our juvenile population that is being held in a juvenile detention center is illiterate. So we can't just look at it as a cost. We have to look at it as a cost benefit. And once we start addressing this problem, once we start educating these children the way we should be educating these children so that they are not illiterate, we are going to see a reduction in cost in other areas of the state budget.
Excellent point.
And that is just statistically borne out by what I've stated the statistics are, and those statistics can be found online and backed up. So I'm not going to keep you. You
Okay.
are busy.
Thank
I hope
you.
you'll consider this bill for argument and discussion.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
always available, easy to be found with reference to answering questions. And again, the aspects of this bill that are in there have come from other bills in other states that have passed, that are being utilized in those states, and that have been supported by the states decoding dyslexias.
Thank you, sir.
With that, I yield back, Chairman. Thank you for
sir.
your time.
Thank you, thank you. We always appreciate your testimony and the time and effort that you put in, as well as Representative Quattrochi, who has been a tremendous advocate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as you can see, he took the words right out of my mouth. And you can tell, committee, that why he's such a champion and a true advocate and warrior for the dyslexic community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Any questions for Representative Quattrochi? Thank you very much, Representative. The next
you.
witness is Mr. Andy Andrade.
Hello.
Hi, welcome, Mr. Andrade, Rhode Island Department of Education. Please proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to compliment Mr. McGeough. I've heard him testify many times, and we really appreciate his passion and his advocacy. One of the things that he did mention was that this bill comes from other states, and that's one of the things that if the Assembly deems that this is the direction that you want to go, and the cost, which is considerable, is allocated through the General Assembly through the budget, we certainly would need to work on some of these issues. And first of all, a number of the requirements in the bill are already being done by locals, districts, and it puts the onus on RIDE. So that would have to change. When I talk to our staff, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee that deal with this, with dyslexia on an everyday basis, one of the concerns they had was codifying a specific test or statewide assessment in the law, that could be problematic. There are some that say that this particular test isn't the best test, and sometimes it needs to be supplemented by other tests. The bottom line, Mr. Chairman, there's a lot of things in this bill that make sense, that would be good for kids, and we would certainly be happy to work with Chairman, with you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Quattrochi, Mr. McGeough, to implement some of these things. We're not necessarily sure that this bill itself is the right way to do it. There are a lot of questions, but we're certainly more than happy to work with everyone to make it better for kids, because this is certainly a priority area for the Commissioner and for RIDE. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrade. Any questions for Mr. Andrade? Thank you very much. Suzanne Arena, Decoding Dyslexia, the co-founder. Suzanne, welcome.
Thank you.
You could set your audio off on the computer, please.
Just did. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. So I want to commend Joe. I know he has tirelessly been working at this. I just wanted to bring up, before I go into exactly what the position is, that we do oppose the bill the way it's written. A lot of things are redundant and they're already in place. We appreciate the underscore on a lot of it. For case in point is having the schools test children and tell the parents that the child is having an issue with reading. They already do that right now. They do it with RTI and PLPs. The problem is the RTI and PLPs that they're using and the methods are not good methods that make the children actually successful. And so we have to look at that. That's a whole nother issue. One of the things we'd like to see is the reinstatement of the special dyslexia legislative commission that Representative O'Brien had, and we did for 2 years. We were hoping to come out with the dyslexia toolkit and some other things. And we did start with the URI program and the teachers, and we're training, and there's a lot of great things that are going on. It's slow, it's not enough, but he did talk about his daughter and how his daughter was very upset, and I agree. It's horrible, but we did pass 2 bills, and 2 of the bills cover a lot of some of the things that he's talking about. So, you know, the behavior issues that we talked about earlier about suspensions, a lot of our kids, early elementary kids, are getting suspended for their behaviors because they're not addressing the needs for reading. You can't have, we learned this the last hearing, you cannot have an ask for like Orton Gillingham. I want this program and it's going to be this. No, RIDE has to choose from a list, and they should provide us a list of good assessments to properly screen and identify students. We do not believe that the bill in the current form is the correct path for schools and children with dyslexia. It's evident that the dyslexia task force, if reinstated, Joe should be on that and certainly help. And we all need to do this in a very cohesive, working together way and not put others down. It has to be done as a team. And so, some of the resources and structured literacy programs, RIDE is working very hard on a lot of this, and we've been very happy with some of the robust methods that they're looking at. The problem is RIDE can make suggestions, but our state is not like California where we mandate things. That has always been a problem. So there are a couple of things. We like the penmanship on it. He's absolutely right. Penmanship, it's been proven, and it's all in our letter. We've put everything in there. But the key thing is, again, we're spending time going through things that some of this legislation has already been passed. It's going to take time. They have until 2025 to implement. We have training. There's all kinds of things that they're putting together. We can't rush to do this. We have programs here that are not, they're not rich in what these kids need. They're the wrong programs. And each school is like a little colony. Every district's a little colony, and we can't have these people going off the grid doing this sort of thing. So I encourage you to read the letter, and the biggest thing I'd like to ask from this committee is, and from Representative Quattrochi, who's really worked hard on this, I know, you have to look at, there's a lot of work to be done, and just throwing in a bill like this, which there's some loose information in it and some inaccuracies. And I know Joe has researched some of this, but we've been doing this a long time.
Yep.
And even in some of the other states, they're not, where they should be. So to conclude, we would like to see a special dyslexia legislative committee to research, strengthen, and add value to what this bill could be and other bills and work that we have to be done. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
And thank you, Suzanne, and thank you for your contribution over the years, because I know for a couple of years I was on that committee, and you are correct. We did accomplish a lot of very specific initiatives, and I'm sure Representative Quattrochi is willing to work with us in that regard, and we will see if we can take up your recommendation, and we'll speak with Representative O'Brien, and if he's not interested, maybe someone else will step up to that leadership position.
Wonderful.
Are there any questions?
Wonderful.
For Ms. Suzanne Arena? Who was? Suzanne, you're on for the next one, too. Please proceed. We're going to go right. That concludes the hearing on 5314. Suzanne, 5315, while we have you on.
Oh, the services to all schools and homeschooling. Yes, absolutely, we support that. That's a great bill, and we need to have that. My only issue with this is you have schools that are private, and they do not have to abide by what the public schools do. So this has always been the problem. It's they can certainly say that they don't want to follow. They don't have the resources as private parents paying. But I do think that right now where we are, because the public schools are so problematic, that I think that there should be more of that. And it was certainly homeschooling. It has to be. Yes,
Yep.
We love that. Thank you. We approve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Suzanne.
Take care.
Yep. And Representative Quattrochi, do you want to add anything to 5315? So 5315, Representative Quattrochi?
Hello?
Oh, okay, this is Mr. Andrade, 5315.
Yes, sir.
The-
Yep. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, again, I met with our special education staff about this bill, and we really do believe that it is unnecessary. As you know, federal and state law regulations already require students who are homeschooled with an approved plan do receive free and appropriate education, including the provisions of special education and related services for eligible students. Mr. Chairman, what I'm going to say now is very, very important for everyone that's sitting on your committee, and I hope that you will listen. If any of you have any constituents that need assistance with any specific case, like this or anything else dealing with special education IEPs, we have a special education call center here at RIDE. I'm going to give you the number. It's 222-8999, or you can email at ridecallcenter@rideri.gov. It's an awesome research. We help all kinds of people tread through these waters, and it's very, very successful. So any of you have any constituents with any of these issues, you can call me directly, and I'll help facilitate it, or call this number or this website, and you will get help. And so I think it's very important that we're aware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Andrade. Are there any questions?
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Andrade? Thank you very much. Mr. Robert Marshall, Rhode Island Developmental Disabilities Council. Welcome, Mr. Marshall.
Thank you, Chairman McNamara, for letting me appear verbally, I guess, on behalf of the Rhode Island Developmental Disabilities Council. Council strongly believes that all children should receive IEP services no matter where they're receiving their education. And if they need them, they should be getting them. And we also have a couple of questions on the bill that we'd like to see addressed before it's passed. And that's revolves around the homeschooling, bullying issue. We're hoping, we'd like to see some language, we think you should consider putting some language in the bill that makes the off-site use of the library temporary while the school addresses the bullying issue and gets it to where that child can go back to the school to receive their IEP services. And we also would like, we're not sure how to get the language in there, but we'd like to at least talk about putting some language in so that that's a last resort, and if there's a way to remove the bully during the IEP services to the library, that might make more sense, and let the child that needs the services get them, and
Yes,
put the bully in
I
the
agree.
library. Yeah, so we're very willing to work with the sponsor and you on those issues.
Thank you.
We've got written testimony, and I'll keep it that brief.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Are there any questions for Mr. Marshall? Thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on 5315. And with that, I would like to thank members of the committee in kind of alphabetical order, the Vice Chair, Representative Barrows, Vice Chair Amore. We're going to have to speak with him about the East Providence building plans. Representative Alzate from the great city of Pawtucket, Representative Baya, Principal in Residence, Representative Caldwell, all the way from East Greenwich, Representative Donovan, who's getting ready to take her boat down to Providence very soon for the sessions, Representative Fenton Fung from the great city of Cranston, second largest city by about 3 people over Warwick, Representative Giraldo from the great city of Central Falls, Representative Kislak from the fashionable east side of Providence, Representative Norrie, who is West Warwick and Coventry, Representative Phillips, who represents Woonsocket and a little bit of Cumberland, right? Can't forget Cumberland, Representative Phillips, and Representative Shellcross Smith, who represents Lincoln, and also Representative Shellcross Smith, I know you represent part of Pawtucket, because she'll be certainly marching in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Hopefully they'll have it this year. My name is Joe McNamara, Cranston, and Warwick, the Patuxent Village, Gaspee area. With that, motion to adjourn. So moved. Thank you very much, and have a great evening. This concludes the hearing on the Rhode Island House of Representatives Committee on Education.